everyone, and welcome to an interview with Mihir Magudia, Leo Global Director of External Relations. Mihir is also our company guru on digital currency and Leo Coin. So we're very pleased to have you here with us today. I'd like to focus on digital currency in the first session if we can. I'm really quite a novice when it comes to digital currency. So I thought my first question was, what is it? What's digital currency?
So digital currency is a currency like any other currency, except instead of having a physical note, you have an online note. Just like you do a bank transfer from one bank account to another, you can transfer digital currency from one digital wallet to another. You can pay for goods, you can pay for services, you can take your salary in it, you can get bonuses in it. It's a currency just like any other currency that floats, and the value of it is determined by supply and demand on the market, just like any other currency in the world.
That's quite amazing. When did digital currency first start? I've heard about Bitcoin, and I think that was 2009.
Mm-hmm. So digital currencies have been going for a number of years. The very first examples appeared when the internet first started. So in the early 90s, there was a thing called e-money and e-gold, and various companies tried to start up different types of digital currencies. Bitcoin was the real trailblazer, though, in 2009, because along with it came the idea of the blockchain, and that's sort of the magical technology behind digital currencies, and certainly behind modern digital currencies, that makes them so exciting and so powerful.
Okay, so there's going to be a lot of terminology, I think, associated with it, that if we could try and understand that, that would be great. So digital currency, you're saying, can just be used like anything else for goods and services. But it doesn't involve a bank.
No.
And this is what most of people in today's world think about. Their money always involves a bank. It goes into the bank, they take it out of the bank. What does digital currency use?
So instead of using a central bank that may or may not be in trouble, may decide to print more notes, may have all sorts of issues with it, and in many countries all over the world, central banks haven't been the most trustworthy places to hold your money. Instead of using that, we use a decentralized system. So if I was to transfer you money from my bank account to your bank account, between us would sit an institution called a bank that would verify that transaction. It would make sure that I had money in my account, I would make sure that it landed in your account.
Okay.
That central institution doesn't exist in digital currency. It's spread out amongst all of the small computers and all of the people who are interested in that currency. They lend their computing power, and that computing power does what the bank would do. It verifies that I've got it in my wallet and that it arrives in your wallet. And the magic of that is you don't need to trust a central body. You don't need a central institution in the way, and you don't need to pay for the maintenance of it. It's taken care of by lots and lots and lots of little computers all over the world.
So in some way, the people who are lending their computer power are helping pay for it. It's like a cooperative.
A bit like that, yeah. So they're lending their computing power, and that is making the system work. They are rewarded by the system as well. So if they lend lots of computing power, and we'll talk about this more later, they'll be rewarded with digital currencies. If they lend a little bit of computing power, they'll be rewarded with less. That's one example of how the system can be supported. There's lots of other ways of rewarding those computers, but for example, the more you give, the more stake you have in a different system.
Stake.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's another phrase.
That is another phrase. So there's all sorts of ways of supporting the system, I think the fundamental point is, and the magic of it is that it's spread out all over the world and not reliant on any central institution that may or may not be trustworthy.
So there's something I don't understand about digital currency. For me, when I go and buy something with £1 here in England, I know that that will buy me £1's worth of that item. With a digital currency, will it be the same? Will that currency have the same value consistently, so I can get that service or those goods?
So digital currencies, just like general currencies, the value is determined by supply and demand and market forces. If you look at what's changed with the euro, if you look at the price of the pound that's changed, those currencies have fluctuated enormously, and that's in some of the most developed economies in the world. If you look at some less developed economies, they have currencies that skyrocket and collapse on a quarterly, monthly, weekly, even daily basis in some cases of hyperinflation. A digital currency like Bitcoin or Leo coin do go up and down in terms of price, but they are comparatively as stable, if not more stable, than a number of old world, more traditional currencies that are out there. So in the same way that one Leo coin might be worth £1 today, if the value of a pound goes down, you may find that a Leo coin is worth more than £1. In the same way that if the value of a pound goes up, a Leo coin might be worth less than £1. And then there might also be a supply issue or a demand issue. There's all sorts of variables that affect the price of any currency in the world. And as I said earlier, digital currencies are just like other currencies, and so play in the same marketplace as them.
Are there any particular advantages that you think there are to having a digital currency or using a digital currency versus your traditional currencies?
Oh, there are so many advantages. So, for example, in a truly open public digital currency like a Leo coin or a Bitcoin, you know exactly how many of that currency there are in the world at any given moment. You know exactly how many of that currency there will be in the future. And that number will never change forever. It can't change because the code behind the currency is fixed. Whereas if you think about a bank or a government currency, they can print more, they can print less, they can play with the value, they can flood the market with supply, they can constrict demand all they want, and they can really play with the currency's value to help other government policies and other government issues. And that's fine for a nation to do, but it's not a reliable system for a user. A user using a digital currency knows that, for example, there will be 1 billion Leo coins in the future. There won't be 1,000,000,001, there won't be 999,999,999. There'll be exactly 1 billion, and you know that forever.
And those are the ones, and they circulate and they go around the system.
And they circulate and they circulate and they go around the system. And so there's so much more transparency with a digital currency. There's no game playing by a central bank. There's no tweaking of this or changing that. Once the code is done, it's the code and it's fixed. And you can see it transparently, you can see it openly, and you can see it publicly. So for someone putting their money into a digital currency, for someone spending digital currency, they know that this is the currency and this is what it's made up of and these are all the parts of it. There's no hidden back room there. Another advantage is that you're not having to pay for a bank to sit as the middleman between you and someone else. I can transfer from my phone wallet to your phone wallet within moments, and there's no middleman between us that we need to pay for.
None of these international bank transfer fees?
No transfer fees,
fantastic.
which can be massively high percentages. In some countries, 20-30% sometimes, of depending on how much you're transferring. And that's crippling to some businesses who can't take a sudden cost on and are prevented from being global because of bank transfer fees. And that's another thing that digital currency can solve. It's one global currency that can work in any country of the world as long as that person has internet access. And that's something that no other currency in the world, no other old world currency can claim.
It does sound quite incredible. So this first started in the 1990s. Bitcoins, though, that was the late 2000s. We are now another 7 years along. What do you think has changed with digital currency?
Well, lots has improved, lots has changed. Now, Bitcoin was absolutely the trailblazer of this latest version of digital currencies, and coins like Leo coin and others are standing on the shoulders of giants. But that was 2009, and the code has remained largely unchanged ever since. And there's been all sorts of new technological developments that certainly Leo coin's taken advantage of, other coins have taken advantage of. There's new ways of rewarding those little computers I was talking about. There's new ways of verifying transactions. There's newer ways of making sure that transactions can be verified quicker and quicker in a quicker way. And there's all sorts of ways of making sure that more and more people can participate and aren't prevented from doing so because of technical boundaries or big graphics cards or something. There's all sorts of changes and improvements that have happened since Bitcoin was launched, and Leo coin's certainly taken advantage of them, and so many other coins have as well.
So if I'm sitting at home with my laptop or my desktop computer, I can go online and purchase digital currency? Do I need any particular knowledge or be really techy?
No, it's an incredibly easy process. As long as you have an email address and can work a computer in a fairly basic way and follow instructions on a screen, you should be able to open an account on almost any digital currency exchange within 10 minutes or so without any real hassle or barriers. It's far easier, for example, than opening a bank account or online would be. You just need to be able to turn on your computer, connect it to the internet, have an email address, and follow basic instructions on the screen. It's not a complex process. And that's one of the really exciting things about LeoCoin in particular. When we were formulating it and creating it, we really wanted it to be a coin for everyone. We want it to be a coin that the aunts and uncles can use without any detailed understanding of how this whole world works, because we don't think that's necessary. They just need to know that it does work. And so all of the design decisions we made with LeoCoin, all of the marketing and promotional materials that we've created, all of the future plans we have about it are all about how we can make sure that LeoCoin is a truly mass market digital currency. Because while, as I said, Bitcoin, we really are standing on the shoulders of giants with them. If there was one criticism of it, it would be that it's still far too niche. It's still the reserve of technical-minded people who understand proof-of-work mining, who have big graphics computers, who really get involved in the nitty-gritty details of exactly how the miner code works. And that's not what LeoCoin needs to be. That's not what digital currency needs to be. It has the potential to revolutionize the way business is done, but the only way it can do that is if it's truly a mass market coin rather than a niche occupation.
So do you think there are any countries in particular that are leading the way or that are more open to digital currency in their society?
There's lots of countries that are looking very closely at digital currency regulation about how they engage with it. In the UK, they've had a fairly good approach to regulating digital currencies. We, via the LeoCoin Foundation, have worked very closely with the British government to help them formulate their regulation, respond to their requests for information, and to meet with the relevant ministers and secretaries of the Treasury to help them understand our view for the future of digital currency. And across Europe, you do get a similar approach where some governments don't quite understand what it is yet, but they're not acting to squash it or to over-regulate it, certainly, and that's to be encouraged. I mean, there are obviously countries that are opposed or countries that want to heavily regulate digital currencies, but we think that as their understanding grows, their fear of it should reduce and will end up with a far more open society.
So what do you think those fears are, all those criticisms?
I think it's probably a lack of understanding about what digital currency is, what the blockchain is, and the revolutionary power of it. It's not a threat to any government, it's not a threat to any other currency, it's just an incredibly exciting way of doing business, an incredibly exciting way of overcoming sometimes artificial and institutional barriers that simply don't need to be in the way when trying to do business globally and around the world.
So you talked about regulation. Are digital currencies regulated in any way? Should they be regulated?
They are regulated. It depends on country by country what they choose to do. It's such a new technology, such a newly developing market, that what we see as our role via the LeoCoin Foundation is to work with governments from all over the world to help inform them and help almost educate them about what this new technology is and what it can do and what the best way of regulating it is. I think the biggest risk to digital currency is that it's treated like some established or existing commodity or security, or it's treated in the way that any old world product might be. But it's exactly so. But it's an entirely new development. It's an entirely new sector and a new technology that is so much more flexible, so much more exciting, and has so much more potential than any old commodity or stock or something. And we've got to make sure that the regulation that's attached to it and the regulation that's put on it across the world is appropriate and not heavy-handed. At the same time, we fundamentally support regulation for digital currencies. We believe that the only way this market will ever grow into a truly mass market situation is if people have the confidence that they get when something is regulated in the appropriate way.
That's something that would bother me. I'd want it to be trustworthy. I want to know that the currency I've purchased is not just disappearing off into the ether, that I can then use that, and when I've sent it off into the internet, that I'm going to receive something back. You know, the goods turn up on my doorstep, or I pick it up from somewhere, or whatever it might be.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily be a digital currency regulation. That would be the standard consumer protections and standard consumer regulations that you'd have with whoever you were buying something from the internet or buying something from a shop. In the same way that Amazon accepts, or Alibaba accepts MasterCard and Visas and credit cards, they could very easily accept Leo coins or Bitcoins if they wanted to. And you'd be protected in all the usual ways that you already are. The currency is just a form of exchanging value from one person to another, in the same way that cash is, in the same way that a bank transfer is, in exactly the same way a credit card is. So you'd expect the same sort of protections with that as you get here.
That's good. It's very reassuring. You also mentioned blockchain. What is blockchain? This is a very strange concept. A series of chains all put together.
So the blockchain and blockchain technology essentially is essentially about a public ledger. It's a public place, a public collection of information that anyone can look at, anyone can download, anyone can support with their small computers, that verifies transactions with a digital currency, that double checks data if it's not about a digital currency. And the simplest way of thinking about it is it's a publicly accessible, publicly open database that, in the example of Leo coin, shows where every single Leo coin in the world is, shows when they were created, when they exist, similarly with Bitcoin, and means that you can trust it. You can trust the system because the blockchain allows that publicly open technology, that publicly open database for anyone to view. So, for example, there's all sorts of ways that this technology could be used. When you're buying a house, currently you need lawyers and estate agents and all sorts of people, and one of their jobs is to make sure that I legally own that house and I can sell it to you. If there was a public database of house ownership, you wouldn't need that. And how would you know that public database was true? You'd create it using blockchain technology that would allow lots and lots of different computers to verify the truth of it using their processing power. So that's the magic of it. There's all sorts of ways of blockchain voting, very new ideas that have been set up that again help prevent fraud because it's all in a public database and it's all being checked by a decentralized system that you don't need to trust a central institution. And we're almost at a point now in this revolution where the power of blockchain technology and its potential to change things is almost as exciting as the power of digital currency on its own. If you like, digital currency is one example of the way that blockchain technology with an open, distributed public ledger, it's called, can work. But there's all sorts of ways that that particular technology can work, and it's an incredibly exciting time to be part of it.
That does sound really cool. Not that I understand IT very much, or programming or coding, but would my personal details be in the blockchain if I purchased a digital currency?
No. The movement of that currency from one wallet, nobody knows who owns that wallet, to another wallet, and nobody knows who owns that wallet, would appear in the blockchain. Right. So if I sent you 10 Leo coin, you could look at the blockchain if you wanted to, and you could see where I got that Leo coin from another wallet. You wouldn't necessarily know where in the world, from another wallet. And you could see where that person got that Leo coin from, and that person, and that person, and that person, and that person, all the way back to when that 10 Leo coin were first created.
Or born.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. Or when they appeared out of the code. And so you'd know that they were real Leo coins. You'd know that that was a true transaction. You'd know that I hadn't just I wasn't trying to scam you or game the system or cheat in any way. And the reason you know that is because you can see where the Leo coins come from its moment of existence until it arrives in your wallet. And then when you pay it on to someone, they'll be able to see that, plus your step. And again, and again, and again, and again, forever.
Okay, so something more about the wallet idea. I'm thinking it probably has a unique ID reference.
It does.
Something like that. That still would have been created at some stage and linked to me. I'm just thinking about, some people can be quite worried about being tracked back through the internet and back to their home computer IP or internet provider address. What would you say about the anonymity and security?
Well, true anonymity is not what LeoCoin does, and it's not what any real digital currency does. It's not about making it easy for you to be completely anonymous, because there are risks attached to that, and we don't really want to be associated with behaviours that would require complete and total anonymity, because you get all sorts of issues with the dark web and all sorts of other nonsense. Privacy is essentially protected by digital currencies, because while you have got a wallet address, it's on your computer. If you want to generate a new wallet address, you just click Generate New Wallet Address, and a new collection of 24 letters will appear. And you can do another one, another one, another one. So when I use Bitcoin and when I use LeoCoin, and if I'm accepting payments or sending out payments, I will generate a new address for all the payments that I want to create, so I can track them a bit easier. And there's no way of knowing where those payments sit. There's no way of knowing that it's my wallet that all those payments sit in. But what's quite exciting is if you were to do something untoward, if you were to do something illegal with a digital currency, if I was able to work out where the wallet was that it ended up in, I could track back every single transaction that coin made, and I could at least have a wallet address if I was law enforcement, for example, and trying to find out where this money came from and who's been funding untoward activities, which is something you could never do with cash. So it's a far more secure system than cash is, both from a personal point of view and from a law enforcement point of view.
And there's always, it's keeping the balance of the two sides of the coin, excuse the pun, where you've got to protect people's privacy, but it needs to have integrity, so that it's keeping within the law and within the rules of that country or internationally.
Absolutely, and we completely support country activities and national activities, as long as their regulatory powers and regulation plans are appropriate for digital currencies and the blockchain.
I've learned an awful lot about digital currency. I don't think I quite appreciated that it is the same as using pound sterling or my dollars for goods and services. And in this way, I look forward to seeing it being in more everyday use, I think around the world. Is there anything else about digital currency that you think a person who has not heard of it would want to know, or your parting points really to them?
I guess one of the most exciting things about digital currency is that it's instantly global and instantly accessible for two people on opposite sides of the planet to exchange value without any of the old world institutions blocking it, or actually no, not blocking it, adding unnecessary costs, creating barriers that don't necessarily need to be there. There's all sorts of reasons why you'd want to shop around the world. There's all sorts of reasons why you'd want to do business around the world. But there's no reason why a central institution should delay that or add unnecessary cost to your business or your transactions. That's one of the most exciting things about digital currency. And I think if someone was thinking about using it, about learning more about it, about getting involved in it, the best thing to do is just to get some and try it and see how you feel. See what you like doing it. Learn how to use it. Learn how to use the LeoCoin. Download a LeoCoin wallet. Get some and send some to someone. Get some back and see what you can do.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I like the sound of having a virtual wallet. Won't be looking for it in my handbag.
Yeah, exactly right.
So you heard it here from Mihir Magadia. So I challenge you out there to just go out, get some digital currency and give it a try.